Hi, I'm Sandra Cohn. I'm a Seattle-based newborn and family photographer, and today I'm going to show you my simple one-light setup that I use when working with newborns and families in my studio. So before my newborn clients come in, I always get the workplace prepped, because if you've ever had any experience with little kids, then you'll know they don't have a lot of patience. So as soon as my clients walk through the door, I get right to work. So I always work with my newborns on a bed. So I have my bed up, I have fresh linens down, I have my light set up, and then I have everything that I need for the shoot. So I have my meter, my film, my camera, and hand sanitizer, all ready to go. I hear from newborn photographers all the time who are really concerned about using strobes and flash with their newborn clients, just from a safety issue, right? They're worried that it's going to hurt the baby's eyes. And so let's talk about that for a minute. So first of all, there's a big difference between using a strobe or using a flash pointed away from the baby in a big softbox and just using reflective light, which is what we're doing with my method of lighting. There's a big difference between that and taking a bare flash that you would have on your camera and putting it right in somebody's face. A bare flash on camera is going to be much brighter than the reflective light that we're using when we're in this setup. Also, with my approach, part of the reason I get that really beautiful, soft, natural light look is that I have the power on my light really turned down. So we're shooting wide open, and that turning the power down makes it so that it's just really this nice soft light that falls on your subject. I can actually sit here all day and flash this light in my face and it doesn't bother my eyes at all. And I'll be honest, I've been working with newborns and babies for 23 years. And most of the kids I work with don't even notice when the flash pops because it's so soft and it's so subtle. So if you're worried about safety, just know that you're not going to injure a baby using your flash or your strobe with this setup. So another concern that I hear from people who work with newborns and little kids and families is that they don't want to use studio lighting because they don't want to be carting around a bunch of gear. And this is like particularly a problem for people who work on location or who are going into people's homes and photographing families. And I totally get that concern, right? Because, you know, a lot of times when you're searching for studio lighting setups or trying to learn and you come upon a YouTube video or a tutorial online, you'll see a setup in somebody's giant studio and they have 15 lights set up and assistants and reflectors and adults that are just sitting there perfectly still. And that's not the reality when you're working with kids, right? So everything that I do with just one light. So my entire setup is pretty simple. It's a light stand, one light, and a modifier. That's it. So my go-to equipment when working with newborns and families in my studio is the FJ200 strobe with the 7-foot shoot-through umbrella. So when people hear that I use the FJ200, I get a lot of questions about the power on that light and if it's enough to work with in a studio, and it's more than enough. I use the 200 at like 50% power most of the time, sometimes a little bit lower, and it gives me plenty of light to photograph my newborns and also my families. I've used that light working with parties up to like 8 people. So it's more than enough light, and it's so wonderful because it's small, it's wireless, the battery lasts forever, and I just love it. Now, my favorite modifier to use when working with newborns and family is the 7-foot umbrella. And I use the translucent umbrella, which a lot of people have questions about, but this is why I love using it. So one thing that I do differently than I think a lot of people who use this umbrella is that I use it as a bounce, not as a shoot through. And I get a lot of emails about that, a lot of questions on Instagram about that, about why I use it that way, and do I know I'm using it wrong and all of that. And so I want to just show you why I use it this way. So using it as a bounce like this actually just gives me more softness. It adds an extra couple layers of diffusion, and the whole look I'm going for in my images is that real soft, north window light look. So I'm really trying to mimic the kind of light I would get out of a north facing window on a perfect day. Shooting with the umbrella this way and adding in that bounce really helps me achieve that look. So let me show you. So what you're gonna notice when I'm using this umbrella as a bounce is that the light bounces off the back and comes through that diffusion panel. So that bounce plus the diffusion panel is an extra 2 levels of diffusion, which really makes that light soft. But then we also get the light leak out the back that then bounces around my room and really fills up the shadow and gives that real beautiful, bright look that I'm known for in my work. You get a little bit of shadow, a little direction, but it's very soft, very subtle, looks exactly like a north-facing window. Now let me show you what happens when we turn the light around. So as you can see, when I'm using it as a shoot through, it's still soft, it's still beautiful, but you're gonna notice a little difference in the shadow detail. So it's a little more contrasty. There's a lot more shadow off the baby's face, and you can really see it on that shadow on the bed. So when working with babies and kids, I'm a big believer in keeping things short and sweet. I know that babies don't have a ton of patience. They don't like being moved and fussed with, but toddlers really don't have a lot of patience. You maybe have like 15, 20 minutes tops when working with a toddler. So with my family that I work with today, I used my posing system that helps me stay on track, make sure I get all the shots that I want, everything that they're going to want in a really quick fashion. With my system, I always start with the baby first. Once I get the baby positioned, I'll take a couple photos of the baby's entire body from different angles. Then I'll take some pictures of just the baby's face from different angles. I'll do details like feet or hands, that sort of thing. Babies also really respond well to light pressure. So that's why babies like being swaddled actually, because it kind of puts a little pressure on them. It gives them that feeling that they had when they were in the womb. So when I'm working with a newborn, the first thing I will do is take the baby out of their car seat and place them on their stomach, because there's that little bit of pressure on their stomach and they like that. And then I'll put a hand on their head and a hand on their feet and just give them a little light pressure there. It's like a little baby hug until they calm down and go back to sleep. And then with my light, again, I'm going for that really beautiful soft north light look. And we know with light, the bigger your light source, the softer the light, and the closer your light source, the softer the light. And so I bring my light in real close, probably about 3-4 feet from the baby, and I use my big giant 7-foot umbrella. I'm shooting Portrait 800 film today. I'm gonna get my meter set for that, and then I'm going to meter for my shadows. So people always they're worried that the camera's gonna wake up the baby or the light's gonna wake up the baby, but you can see the flashing doesn't even faze them. And I shoot a Hasselblad, which is like the loudest camera ever, and babies don't mind. So one thing I wanna say really quick about baby safety is when I have a baby alone on the bed like this, if they're any older than a newborn, then I have a parent right here on the side of the bed. With newborns, when they're sleeping like this, because the bed's so big and they're so little and they can't roll over, I don't worry. And we don't put them in any kind of unnatural poses or unsafe poses that need spotting. We just let the baby do what the baby wants to do, basically. One of the reasons why I don't like necessarily pose babies, obviously I'm helping him calm down and relax here, but I'm not posing him. So I kind of like to see what they just do. I feel like we learn a lot about a baby's personality just by watching what they do. And it's really fun when they do things like this, or they'll put a hand in front of their face or whatever. The parents will say, oh, I have an ultrasound picture with his hand like that or something. Once I'm done with the baby, I'll bring the sibling in, if there is a sibling, do some photos with the older child and the baby because every family wants those. So this is why I keep my camera at f4 because I can easily add in a sister. When I'm working with an older sibling and a baby, I kind of let the older sibling tell me what they're comfortable with. If they're comfortable laying on their belly and kind of snuggling up to the baby, then I'll let them do that. I'll just have them lay down on the bed and kind of bring their arms around their baby sibling, not actually holding it, but kind of feeling like they're holding it. If they're not comfortable with that, I'll just let them sit on the bed right next to the baby and either put a hand on the baby or just look at the baby. Sometimes we'll ask them to kiss the baby. Whatever they're comfortable with, that's what we do. After I've finished working with the baby and the older sibling, then I'll bring in mom and I'll position mom on her belly lying down with the baby in her arms, take a few pictures of baby and mom, then I can easily just place dad right next to her on the bed or her partner with the older child if there is one and get some quick family photos. When I'm working with a newborn, I try to be as quick as possible. I'm still at f4, everything's the same. When I bring dad in, I'm just gonna raise my light a little bit, just so we're getting nice light on him. Everybody look at me. She's trying to kiss, oh, she's trying to get the lollipop. I thought she was gonna kiss the baby. Once I've gotten a few family photos, then I'll let everybody get up off the bed and I'll have dad pick up the baby. I'll move the bed aside, get some photos of dad holding baby, and then we're all done. So one thing you'll notice is I haven't really changed the power of my light very much at all. You just move it around. It makes this one light setup really easy. So you're gonna stand right here with them. So one question that my parents often ask me when they come into the studio and they see that I'm working with film and not a digital camera is, how do I know if I've gotten the shot? How do I know if everything is right? And I do that by using my meter. I use my meter to tell me if my light is right, if it's in the right position, if everything is exposed properly. I kind of use my meter like a digital photographer would use their LCD screen. It just is an easy way for me to check and make sure everything is working the way I want it to. Now, if you're new to newborn photography, you're just getting started and you want some tips, let me help you out. So first of all, if a baby is going to get fussy during a session, it's usually with the mom. And that is because moms smell like food to babies. They're used to being handed to the mom when they're feeding. It's part of like the whole pheromone thing. So I always tell my moms before I pose them with the baby that the baby might get fussy. At the very beginning of my career, when I was first working with newborns and moms, I noticed that every time I would hand a mom a newborn, the baby would get fussy and cry. And that actually upset some of my moms. And so now I just prep them. I'm like, you smell like food to that baby. If you get close, that baby might want to eat. It's just instincts. Don't take it personally if your baby cries. So one thing I have learned after 23 years working with newborns and families is that when families come in with their brand new baby, they're a little nervous, especially if they're first-time parents. And so one of the ways that I help relax the parents is just by communicating. I tell them everything I'm going to do every step of the way so that they know I know what I'm doing, that I'm in charge, and that their baby's safe with me. So when they come into the studio, I greet them, I tell them exactly what we're gonna do. I said we're gonna start with the baby, we're gonna do baby and sister or brother, we're gonna do baby mom, family, baby dad, lay it all out for them. And then every time I go to move the baby or bring somebody else in or change something up, I just let the parents know what I'm doing so that they feel confident and comfortable. My biggest piece of advice, if you are getting started with working with newborns or babies or families and your lighting, is practice before you ever have a family sitting in front of your camera. So I have dolls that I take photographs of, which is a little bit weird, I guess, a little creepy, but practice on a doll or practice on a mannequin or practice on, your dog or your husband or your children or anything before a client sits in front of your camera. If you are interested in working with studio lighting and families or newborns, just know you don't need a ton of gear. You really can do everything with just one stand, one light, one modifier. Easy is better. Just think of it as a portable window that you get to control all the time, which is great. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please just leave a comment below and we will do our best to get back to you.